Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cinema A to B. Today, we are discussing Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, the 2023 Tom Cruise actioner, the most recent in this run of Mission Impossible films. So Alec, start us off on, remind me which number of entry this is.
This is 8, I believe,
Jeez.
because you've got missions 1, 2, and 3, you got Ghost Protocol, then you've got Rogue Nation, Fallout. So this is 7.
7.
This is 7.
7,
This is
wow.
7. So, my goodness. Yeah. Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, Fallout, and then Dead Reckoning. Yeah. So that's 7.
7.
I had to, my goodness. And I'm just going to start off right off the bat. I am not a huge Mission Impossible fan of the movies. Like, there's ones I like a lot, but for the most part, I gravitate more towards James Bond. Even with all of his gadgets and, the Roger Moore series, I always felt James Bond was far more down to earth and a little bit more grounded, especially more of the Daniel Craig stuff. Whereas I felt like Mission Impossible was just getting more grandiose and more impossible, pun intended, each outing. And it's funny because I know that most of the big spectacle stunts are done by Tom Cruise and are real. Which is funny to think that it feels so not real in the movie, but yet it actually is real. But then I look at a lot of the James Bond stuff, which a lot of that is either stuntmen and not Daniel Craig, but feel that's almost a little bit more grounded, more real. So I don't really know what it was, but I always was a little bit more, like I said, gravitate more towards James Bond. So I hadn't seen, I had seen Dead Reckoning Part 1, but totally forgot about it. And could not remember anything about the series. So Laura and I sat down, I was like, you know what? We're going to do Dead Reckoning. Final Reckoning is coming out. We're going to watch that. I want to go through them all again just to kind of remember. And Mission Impossible 1 was the one I remember the most. I think I've seen it the most amount of times. Like, I was really watching through it, I was like, oh, I remember this, I remember this. 2, I remember how much I disliked it and kind of went through all of them. But when we got into like Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, Fallout, they all kind of blended together for me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't remember what happened in 1. I just watched these like a couple weeks ago, and I still am like, wait, which movie was that?
Yep.
And I think that's my biggest issue is while they all feel very similar. And I do like how Rogue Nation started this kind of little bit more overarching story. And I feel like that's a little bit better than what the first 4 were. Dead Reckoning, to me, just kind of goes off the rails a little bit. I don't find it nearly as interesting as the previous 2. I am kind of not interested in where it's going either. I mean, I'm gonna go watch Final Reckoning, but I'm not gonna rush to do it. I think a lot of that is because of Dead Reckoning and just kind of how I walk away when I watch this. So before I go too deep in my own thoughts and my own feelings, what are yours?
I agree with you that Mission Impossible 1, so I'll kind of go back and then we'll come full circle again. Mission Impossible 1 is still my favorite entry in the franchise. I don't know necessarily that it's the best. If I look at all of them, I think the best ones probably Fallout. As far as like the stunt sequences and stuff with Cavill and him fighting are just incredible. Like that whole sequence, and I think it's like, is it a helicopter or something? Like, it's just nuts. Yeah. It's nuts. Like, it was one of those moments, like wow moments of like, I can't believe they're doing this. How did they do some of this stuff? Even though it's set pieces and stuff, it just the way it intercut was really clean. But the first movie, I was a huge fan of the Mission Impossible TV show. I used to watch it on rerun, and I had some VHS cassettes of like some of the best of episodes. And structurally, like the way that show worked, the first movie is the only one that like actually feels like a Mission Impossible movie to me. The rest are like kind of in name only. And the only thing they do from the TV show is the mask thing, which is just played out to death by this point in these movies. Like, it's just overdone. But that's it. In the TV show, they just had all these really clever ways of sneaking around and bugging stuff and stealing things and replacing them with like fake versions of stuff. And the first movie does that. And I still love it for that. I think, and De Palma directed it. De Palma's an incredible director. And so it feels kind of like one of one to me, and then 2 is just garbage.
Absolute garbage.
3 probably still has the best villain that I think across all of the films, courtesy of Philip Seymour Hoffman.
I want to stop you because it still surprises me today that Hoffman is such an amazing bad guy and villain in this. Like, because I mean, I remember him, you know, he's doing Twister, he's doing all these other stuff. Like, this is a huge departure from what he's done previously, and he just nails it.
Yeah.
But
I completely agree with you that 4, 5, 6, and then now 7, they feel like one movie. Like, there's different set pieces, like what sort of absurd thing is Cruise gonna do next, and they're fun. Like, I don't feel like I waste my money on them. But now this one, it's just starting to feel really tired to me. Cruise, I don't have a problem with the fact that Tom Cruise is much older, but he's still trying to play Ethan Hunt the way he played him like 10 years ago. It just doesn't work for me. The movie feels kind of soulless, like, and tired. And then I feel like the whole plot point surrounding AI is super interesting, and they do very little with it. Like, they barely incorporate it into the plot of the movie. Like, it's, I don't know. Like, I thought there were just missed opportunities for the way. I mean, they kind of touch on it a little bit of like, well, how did you communicate with these people? Oh, shoot, it was via text and email. Well, that was the AI entity, right? Show me that. Like, don't tell me.
Yeah.
Like, show me people getting burned more from the fact that they think that their communications are with a real person. And you did get some of it when he's like he's going after that gal in Venice, and he's getting radio comms that aren't really Simon Pegg. Spoiler. But, and we are going to play spoiler on this. And the reason, I meant to watch this movie in theaters, but the reality was this thing just got completely clobbered by Barbenheimer, and I never got around to it. And it was like, it was in and then it was out.
Well, and that's most people, because I mean, it only did like less than 200 million in the box office in the U.S. and Canada, and overall it did less than 600,000. It was a 300 or 600 million. It was like 300 million budget.
Right.
Oof.
And it went over budget because they insisted on continuing to shoot like throughout COVID. I mean, this is the movie famously where Cruise has an absolute meltdown in front of the crew because some of the crew are violating COVID protocol, and he blows up at them, justifiably so, because he's like, I'm trying to keep you guys employed. Like, otherwise they're telling, like, the producer's telling me they're gonna have to shut this down, and the country's gonna tell us we got to get out. So he was justified in going off, and I give him so much credit for staying the course and trying to get this thing done during COVID protocols. I don't know. That was Mission Impossible, right? The movie, whatever they're doing in the movie looks easy compared to making a movie under all these guidelines. And I enjoyed aspects of it. I think it's hella too long. It's 2 hours, 43 minutes. It feels longer than Oppenheimer. Like, it does. Like, I'm sorry.
It does.
It's it feels longer than Oppenheimer. Like, a talky, historical.
Oppenheimer's a masterpiece.
It is, but
this is not.
I've unfortunately got more gripes with this than I do like compliments.
I think the big thing for me too is like you said, they don't really make AI the big bad, but then don't really talk about it again, like very rarely. And then they tried to put on to this Gabriel guy that's been part of it, you know, Ethan's past that we've never known about. And I understand because obviously the world has gotten bigger than what you started with in episode 1, but you're supposed to, or episode 1, movie 1, but you've made him out to be this big bad, and he's kind of just terrible. He talks too much. He's not scary looking. So the guy I really like the bad guy from Rogue Nation and Fallout, like that, the guy who starts, not Spectre, but whatever
it's the same thing.
It's the same
thing.
But like the British, MI6 guy who goes rogue and creates this thing, like he was terrifying. Like I was like, this is really cool. Like him working behind the scenes. Like I was like, that's like Rogue Nation and Fallout are like, I'm with you. 1, I think is really good, even though everyone complains the plot is way too complicated. And like, wait, what's going on? I'm like, just shut up, walk away. But then like for me, it's the duo of Rogue Nation and Fallout, which I feel like is pretty much one film in a lot of ways. But
Is it Sean Harris?
Yeah, Sean Harris. Yeah.
Well, he's
all in the King with Timothée Chalamet.
Yep.
Yeah, he's just
he's in Prometheus as well for a little bit.
Yeah, he's really good. But like that bad guy, we had never heard of him before, but he was immediately dangerous.
He's a better actor.
That too. But then Gabriel, like his introduction, like no, I'm like he doesn't seem scary. Like, and then he goes off, and again, spoiler, when he kills Rebecca Ferguson's character, I'm like, what? This is like dumb. Like this shouldn't have happened.
I'm gonna exaggerate this. I don't care. Gabriel might want to be one of the stupidest characters in a movie in the last, I don't know, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like just worthless. And I almost feel bad for the actor because I'm pretty sure this guy's a better actor than what he's doing in the role, but the role is terrible. Like, you're right. He's not intimidating. I don't buy his physicality. I'm sorry. I don't buy it for a second. Yeah. There's a couple characters in this movie that don't really have motivations like that you as a viewer, like understand. Like I like Haley Atwell, but Grace as a character, like she's so one-dimensional. Like she's just a thief at the wrong place at the wrong time. And it's like, that's not interesting. It's not.
Has no agenda outside of what she wants.
I felt bad for her because I was like, Atwell's like a good actress.
Mm-hmm.
I just think the character's like not well written. And then everybody else is just feeling tired at this point. Like, I mean, how many times are we just going to keep dragging around Ving Rhames and Simon Pegg to just kind of do stuff behind the scenes? Like, it's just getting tired. Like, the formula's tired.
Yeah. And why do you have both of them? Like, because they both do very similar stuff in a lot of ways.
You should have killed one a long time ago because they're very redundant characters, right? Like, I guess Pegg's character's funnier, but they're basically both computer nerds. Like,
well, and I think it was like Pegg really came around, I think, in Ghost Protocol because Ving Rhames was doing something else and couldn't be on shoot.
Okay.
And that's why he comes in at the end, but like he couldn't be a part of it.
And then they they dropped like Renner, like a
yeah. Well, supposedly what I read was actually Renner was supposed to take over for Ethan Hawke. Like not be Ethan Hawke, but he was supposed to take over them. Ethan Hunt. Yeah, sorry. Ethan Hunt. Wow. All right. This is why I don't care about these movies. Sorry. But for Ethan Hunt, like Renner was supposed to be the next person. Much like Jeremy Renner was supposed to be the next like Jason Bourne style character and then do a bunch of movies off of that.
Did Cruise just backtrack on that?
I don't know if it was the studio, if it was Cruise. I know Cruise really loves the character and maybe he was just like, I want to keep doing this because he's basically said, I'll keep doing Mission Impossible movies until they stop giving me money for them.
He might not be far away if they don't.
Yeah.
If Final Reckoning doesn't do well, that they may back off for long because these are super expensive movies.
Yeah, but apparently, if you want someone to take over a franchise and then pull it out from under him at the last moment,
Jeremy Renner,
hire Jeremy Renner.
It's terrible.
I feel bad. That or Henry Cavill too, but
yeah. I just think I think the core team is starting to feel bloated because, you killed off Rebecca Ferguson, which stinks because I love her. Like, I really like anything she's in. She's striking, but she's a good actress. Like, she felt really good casting, I think, for Mission Impossible. I mean, if she wasn't going to be in this franchise, she was going to be a Bond girl, right? Like, she's that level of actress. But yeah, Luther, Benji, it's bloated. Now you've got Palm as Paris, who I like. She was more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Vanessa Kirby's good. Like I have no complaints. She's good in everything she's in. Although I don't know if you noticed, this movie's felt like it was trying to be a bookend to Mission Impossible 1 because everything was set on the train. And you had Vanessa Kirby as this White Widow in place of basically Max. Because Max was an arms dealer as well.
Yeah.
So like they're trying to play off of MI1, but everything about the train sequence in MI1 is like exponentially better than this movie. Like the speed of the train.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know they had him ride up that mountain and roll off of it, which they gave all of that away in all the marketing pieces for the film. They should have never shown that. That should have been fresh for the movie. I don't know why they keep doing stuff like that, but it's really weird because Mission Impossible is like 1996. I mean, this is like, we're talking like almost 30 years, and the sequence feels more intense than the train sequence in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just does. It's kind of a credit to the filmmakers of the time, but yeah, it was kind of cool seeing Kittredge again, but outside of that, like it's bloated because you have Shea Wiggum and this other guy after him, after Ethan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is there two of them?
Yeah. It doesn't make sense. I mean, I don't like Shea Wiggum, and then
I do too, but
it doesn't make sense. And you also have Carrie Ellis in a role that goes nowhere either. Like, why are you using him for this? You know, that could have been thrown just about anything. Unless
they might be friends. They might be friends or something. Cruise might be friends with him. Just put him in there. I don't know. Kind of a waste of Carrie.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, I don't know. It definitely, like, it feels bloated, and it feels like the same characters stay around, because obviously, like, seems like every movie Ethan Hunt gets more. I don't want to call him Ethan Hawke again, just because at this point I don't care. But Ethan Hawke aside,
you're making me just think of Cobra Kai with Hawke.
But so Ethan Hunt gets new people every single time. Then dumps them, but except he keeps his two computer guys. Like,
well, in the movie, even kind of makes fun of that. They're like, because Gabriel's like telling Grace, like, every woman he comes in contact with, like, ends up dead, which pretty accurate generally. Although Ferguson's character lasted like several movies. Yeah,
this would be the third, I think, that she was in.
I know they tried to do that
in Ghost Protocol.
I don't know, but they tried to do that, narrative with starting in Mission Impossible 3 with Ethan Hunt's love interest, and they tried to and they carried that through a bunch of movies, and then in Fallout he finally, like, kind of cut her loose.
Well, no, yeah, but it's like, because she got, like, they came back to it because she was married to someone else. So, like, we never talked about the fact that he got divorced at some point. Like, the last time we see her, like, was, I think, in, like, Ghost Protocol, when he sees Ving Rhames, character, and he looks out and he sees her walking across, and then she looks at him, and they share this moment, and I'm like, I thought you gave up everything. Like, that was handled poorly, and then you don't talk about her for an entire movie, and then all of a sudden she shows up married to some other guy, and you're like, wait, what's like,
I don't know.
And of course you have this side plot of Jeremy Renner killing her, or letting her get killed. And he's like, oh, we did that on purpose so she could be safe. And it's like, okay, what? Like, again, just all these dumb moments of, like, just say they got divorced and call it a day.
So I understand their plight, though, because the beauty of James Bond is you cast a guy as Bond, and then he might get between 3 and 5, 6 movies tops, and then you reboot the thing again. They don't have that ability with this. If they did, they haven't done it yet, is effectively what I'm, and
they've only done one more movie than most James Bond people.
Well, and they've not even touched, like, Fast and the Furious.
No, they have not.
But I think it's time. Like, I don't know. I think it's audiences seem to have, like, moved on with this. In some ways, it's not feeling that much different from the Fast and the Furious franchise to a certain extent. It's toned down quite a bit more, but
it feels superfluous. Like, this, we don't need it. Like, I remember when, what was it, like 2018, when Fallout came into the theaters, and it was like this heralded big thing, and like you said, when 2023 came around, Mission Impossible, I couldn't tell you that it was in the theaters. Granted, again, it was Barbieheimer that was taking over everything, but still, like, I wasn't, like, I still have my unlimited pass, and went, didn't go see it in the theater, or maybe I did. I have to check my spreadsheet, but literally I don't remember. When I went into watching this movie for the first, like, just recently, I was like, haven't seen this movie, don't know what's going on. And then as I'm watching it, both Laura and I are going, I remember this. Well, I realized. And then they do this, and we're like, did we watch this already? And I'm like, that's how good it is.
Started it and got into a certain point and then went and did something else and had forgotten that I'd watched it. And when I came back to it, I was like, oh wait, yeah, this feels familiar. All right, like let's play a game and see where this stops feeling familiar. And it was a good ways in. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I didn't finish it. I probably watched 30, 40 minutes of it and then like turned it off and was doing something else. But it's not very good. I think it sits at a 7.6 on IMDb, which I just think is absurd. No. Like I'd give it like a 6.5 maybe. I just think it's kind of lifeless in a lot of ways. Like I've just ceased to think that Ethan Hunt and his crew are ever really in any real danger because they're not. Like they're not. Like
and Rebecca Ferguson's character is going to be coming back. She's not dead. That's the other thing too. It's
I felt
no
like
one's really dead.
I wondered if she actually turned bad and they like Gabriel faked her death. Like that's what it felt like, that she switched sides basically. Or
she put her face on someone else, and that person, I don't know. Like that's always the thing. Like when they killed his wife and Ethan Hunt's wife in 3 was really someone else.
Yeah.
It's always someone else in a mask. Like everyone's always in masks, and everyone's so surprised when the person they think is dead is not dead. They're like, oh my goodness.
I did like them sort of calling attention to that though, with like they're like grabbing at people's faces at the airport. Like that guy's like, what's the matter with you? Yeah, I feel like we're starting to enter the parody stage of Mission Impossible.
And I do like the director, Christopher McQuarrie. Yeah. He Way of the Gun. I do actually enjoy the Tom Cruise Jack Reacher film that he directed.
Yeah.
Like even though Tom Cruise is nowhere near what Jack Reacher is supposed to be, but I think it's still an enjoyable film. And like I said, I did like Rogue Nation and Fallout. I don't think they're great, but...
By the way, McQuarrie wrote the screenplay for Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
He's actually a more gifted writer than he is even a director, but...
I think it's just... Go ahead. Keep on.
No, and he wrote the screenplay for Maverick as well, Top Gun Maverick. So
it looks like did he also Usual Suspects?
It's like if he's writing, my favorite movie of his is still that he's directed though is probably still The Way of the Gun. Yeah. I love
underrated film.
I love that movie. Yeah, it's awesome.
I think it's right when you don't have any kind of fear for your characters, there's nothing special really outside of like the 1 or 2 stunts that Tom Cruise does and we all get to see in the preview. It's like there's nothing that really sets these movies apart, which is why they blend so much together and they all feel very same. And then when you get some of those moments which become very tropey, like the face stuff. Like I understand the face masks are part of Mission Impossible in the show, and that was one of the things, but at some level it feels like it's happening every 5 seconds. It's kind of like that moment like in Marvel movies where like some character dies and you're like, oh no, and then they come back 5 seconds later and you're just like, okay, well, after I do that a couple times, I no longer have the emotional response that you're looking for because I know what a fake out is.
It's interesting because like if you go back and watch the TV show, a lot of it is they get people into like confined areas that they think that are basically recreations of real. They do it in the first movie where they have an interrogation. The guy thinks he's in one place, but they're actually just in a big warehouse that they've built to look. So there's a whole opportunity for that kind of stuff in these movies to like fool their adversaries, either by doing that or like projecting like hologram stuff outside windows to make them think certain things are happening that aren't happening. That was a lot of what the TV show is, just fooling the senses, basically. Like sight, sound, smell. Like they were always like 3 steps ahead, and the movies have just lost that. Like they lean too heavily on Cruise's physicality. Like he's always just out physicaling everybody instead of occasionally Ethan Hunt will outsmart somebody, but they've never really leaned on that after the first film. I feel like that was the kind of the advantage of the TV show is. In fact, my favorite episode of the show ever is, I think it's called like Inside the Mind of Stefan Miklos or something. and they outduel like the guy that's considered the greatest, like the top agent officer in the KGB, who's got an IQ of like 160 or something.
Wow.
And Jim Phelps figures out how to plant all this evidence and get his mind to deduce the wrong conclusion and leave the situation thinking there's no threat. And he does it. He outsmarts him. There's a potential there to go back to that stuff and not copy it, but like have it influence the movies again. I wish the movies would get closer to their source material again for a 21st century audience. I think people would appreciate it. I don't think you need to go back to making a TV show. I think these still should be big, loud action films, but I tell you, I would be more interested. I know people have been wanting Nolan to do Bond. I think if you got Nolan to go back and watch some of the episodes of Mission Impossible, you could get an incredible MI film from him, but I think you'd need to reboot it. Like, I don't think you could.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I would love a period, because the Mission Impossible movies were like 1960s, I think in 70s, mostly 60s. I would love a period correct reboot, big movie, 60s era, Cold War, Mission Impossible film, helmed by Nolan. Or McQuarrie. I think McQuarrie could do it just as well. You don't have to change directors.
Yeah.
But
give him that ability to go back and kind of get to the heart of...
Go back to watch some of the top TV episodes again. There was another one that had a young Martin Sheen in it that was really good. And he's a defecting KGB, or he's a defecting Soviet soldier that they get out. There's all sorts of stuff, but I think they struggle now because, and they've, this Rogue Nation thing kind of was the direction they went, because it's like, well, there's really no big baddie anymore. It's all splinter groups and splinter cells, and that's kind of hurt it. I think it's easier when you have like the big...
And you can't put certain countries in because you want your movie to do well in those countries, and if you label them as the big bad, it's not going to go there, and you'll have 1 billion people not watching your movie.
China.
Well, now we're not going to have our episode placed in the place.
Our episodes don't run in China anyway. No, they don't really make it in China. Like they don't make it, not past the censors.
Sorry, that was good. So overall, it's a forgettable.
We're just movie. Crapping all over. This
I'm
movie.
Sorry. It is. It's just. I mean, and again, no, I couldn't do it. I mean, like even like I would take Quantum of Solace. In my opinion, probably the weakest of the Daniel Craig films, maybe, or one of the weaker ones that he's done, and would take that.
It's funny how similar this movie feels to Quantum of Solace, though.
Though Quantum of Solace's bad guy is so much more believable than any of the bad guys that you get in Mission Impossible.
But you do get a big action, like explosive set piece at the end of Quantum of Solace, and you get the same thing in this one with the train car hanging.
Yeah.
And that was a cool sequence, but like, again, we all knew they'd get out of it. Like it's tough. It's tough when you know that your main characters like are just gonna, because you have 6 movies ahead of it where he gets the job done. Yeah. So
they all have plot armor.
That's why the third one felt so fresh, because he got beat up so bad and bested throughout like 90% of that movie. There really hasn't been one since then that Hunt has gotten his butt kicked that much. That one I kind of give props to. J.J. Abrams directed that one. Yeah,
Abrams did. Yeah, it definitely has a style that it was like a highly saturated color in 3. It felt.
Yeah, and I remember I didn't really like the shot selection in that one.
No,
the framing looked more like a TV show. Like Abrams hadn't gotten his like filmic kind of. He's a much better director now, but
it felt definitely felt smaller and a little more intimate.
I think he was still coming out of shooting a lot of TV, and so it suffered a little bit of that. But the performances in it are great. Yeah. I don't know. I like the Mission Impossible franchise. I still think it has a future. I think they're going to have to go back to the drawing board a little bit and reinvent itself a little bit more than.
Or reboot it and try something new. Like, I mean, I know Tom Cruise wants to keep doing it, but at some point, either A, he's going to die doing one of these stunts, get hurt really bad doing one of these stunts.
He has gotten hurt bad doing some of this stuff.
Yeah. Or we're just not going to care anymore that he's doing these crazy stunts.
He'll get hurt doing the one like he did when he did the roof jump. It won't be this stuff where he's like got a parachute on and
no.
It's not
or
that.
Like
it's
when he was on the back of the plane. Like
it's going to be it'll be I hope he doesn't get hurt, but it'll be something like where he's driving a car or something like that seems less risky.
Yeah, which one was where he jumped from?
It was either Rogue Nation or Fallout that he broke his leg. Yeah,
that's brutal.
It was a dangerous stunt too. I mean, it was. I don't know if there was a safety net underneath that gap that he jumped or not. I know he knew he could clear it, but like the distance he had to kind of come down. Yeah, he broke his ankle or something, or his foot. But
no, that's if I ever made it big, I was definitely not going to be that guy. I was going to be the stunt guys. Yeah, okay, cool. I'm going to sit here and watch and be very
more of a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood kind of arrangement.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah,
and that's one of the reasons why I didn't make it. And it's not one of the reasons.
If you just wanted it a little bit more.
A little bit more. Yeah, I mean, in many ways, that's actually a very true statement. But
I don't know. Yeah. Tough business, man. Especially now.
Yeah. Well, and we picked the best time to go out.
I think so.
Right before the writer's strike in 2007 and 2008. That was the perfect timing on my part. Perfect
to go out there?
Yeah, to go out there.
Yeah. I think that hurt you more than it hurt me.
Yeah, it did hurt me a lot and then of course the housing bubble burst and it was like, oh, okay. All right.
I messed up because of money. I really did. And you know the story, but like basically, so I was a post-production assistant on Norbit for 6 months. Fun job, super fun. And then the visual effects editor on Norbit got me an interview for a post-production assistant on Bourne Ultimatum. And I interviewed. It was a good interview. I didn't get it. They gave it to another gal. And then our roommate, Preston, got me on a reality TV show as an assistant editor, making double what I made per week as a post-production assistant. And I was like 2 weeks in, and the VFX editor calls me and says, the workload is so great on this one, they want to hire a second post-PA. Would you be interested? And I had to tell her, I was like, I'm sorry, I can't. Considerably more money as an assistant editor. 6 weeks later, I was out of a job because they fired the editor. He told me, he's like, the cut of this pilot is too good. I've polished it too much, and they're not liking the direction, so they're just gonna can me. And they did, and they bumped me to editor for like a week or two until they could bring their own crew in, and then they fired me. And it wasn't personal. I took it personally, but it wasn't personal. But if I wouldn't have let money be the deciding factor and taken it, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't keep me up at night. I'm more glad today than ever that I'm not pursuing a career in post-production in Los Angeles. Like, that's just not for me. But that would have that trajectory would look different, because that would have been like 6-7 months of gainful employment and more contacts in the field that I was really, because I went in a very different direction after that. I didn't work for a while and then got into an ad agency side of stuff, and then was just doing independent films after that. I was didn't sniff the big feature stuff really again. So yeah, it could have looked different, but that stuff happens, and you got to make rent. It's like, you can't. I was like, it was like $1,200 a week versus $600 or $650. And then a week later, after they fired him, I was making like, $2,000, $2,500 a week for a couple weeks as an editor, like on this reality show. And so it was like, it's a financial thing. It's like, you got to make rent. But yeah, looking in hindsight, it's like, no, Bourne Ultimatum would have been the better gig. Like, the contacts would have been better, longer employment period. Like, should have probably done it, but you never know. Yeah.
Yeah, hindsight's 20.
I guess my thing is just like stay in the lane that you're like really wanting to do. Don't. But yeah, I mean, I was out of work after Norbit, and God bless him, Preston was like, "Hey, they're looking for an assistant editor." I was like, "Okay, yeah, let's do it." But and that, by the way, that editor had like edited the first couple seasons of American Idol. That dude was really good. Yeah, really good. So they canned him. They shouldn't have canned him. Like it wasn't personal. It's because his direction of the show, like they weren't seeing eye to eye with. The network wasn't. So they're like, bring somebody else in.
It's a bummer.
Yeah, it's post.
Oh.
It's post.
Post.
Yeah.
Hey, we'll fix it. We'll fix it in post.
Fix it in post.
We'll fix it in
now
post.
We'll shoot it in post, apparently. We'll just render it in post, will you?
Man. Well, Mission Impossible. Could have fixed it in post a little bit more.
No, I just don't think the script.
No.
I don't think the script is the best, but
yeah. I think there was a lot that's kind of.
But they took their chances, and who knows, maybe they've set up something wonderful.
Yeah, and we'll
for
see it
Final
as
Reckoning, and we'll just see it as this setup for what it is, which is just a big setup film, which I think is a mistake. I don't like those, but
well, especially when you're doing it this far apart, I mean,
yeah.
I know it's only 2 years of like the typical 5 years that the Mission Impossibles have been doing, but you needed to do like back to back, either 6 months apart or like at least a year, maybe a year apart at most, but make it so it's still kind of relevant and still in everybody's mind.
Right.
Because so many people, if you're doing that, so many people who are not going to go back and watch Dead Reckoning Part 1 because there is no Dead Reckoning Part 2. They're just going to go in thinking, oh, I don't need to see it, and go watch Final Reckoning and go, I am so confused at what's happening. Who is this Gabriel guy? Why is he not scary at all?
He does a good job of destroying like a train, a steam engine, like coal-fired. Like just, I guess the AI told him where to break stuff.
Yeah. Like it also, does. So I'm not even gonna. We got to end this soon, anyways. I'm not gonna go into any more yelling at it.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we want to thank everybody for letting us talk about kind of all the Mission Impossibles, but specifically to basically talk bad about Mission Impossible 17,005, the Dead Reckoning Part 1 of 1, and well, there we're at. So we got to peel back a little bit of the onion that is Ben, which is fantastic, a little bit more. But again, we just want to say thank you for listening to us. We really appreciate it. If you have any recommendations, you have anything you want to talk about, or maybe you want to tell us why we're wrong about our thoughts on this movie, feel free. Go to our YouTube channel, post a comment on the video, or shoot us a line at cinemaaB@gmail.com. With that, we will see you next week with another episode of this lovely podcast.
Take care, everybody.